Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Establish the Collection. I, of course, am your host, Cody Main, joined as always by the smiley Gary Hartman. Gary, how's it going, buddy?
Cody, how could it be going poorly when my New York Knicks beat the Dallas Mavericks at home tonight? The Dallas Mavericks have been the hottest team in basketball since Christmas. And not only did they beat him, but our boy, yours and mine, RJ Barrett, is on an absolute tear the last 6 games or so. Tonight, he had another 30-point game, 31 points. This is his second in the last 4. He's averaging like 24 points a game over his last 6, but also filling up the stat sheet, and the Knicks are winning. Our guy's taking a little mini leap again. I'm just hoping that it can sustain. That's all. I'm happy for our boy RJ.
Bing bong.
That's right, baby.
We haven't talked enough basketball this season.
I just wanted to. We were talking a little bit off there. I just wanted to surprise you with my RJ start because I'm pumped about RJ.
I did see the tweet that he dropped 30 tonight. I love seeing that. He had a game winner just a couple of games ago against Boston as well. Yep. So yeah, things are looking good for RJ. Are the Knicks back? Are the Knicks back? It's been an up and down kind of tumultuous season for your New York Knicks, has it not?
They are, I think with their win tonight, they're right back at 500,
okay.
Which seems pretty fitting for the way the season has gone, honestly, which, I would expect them to be around that for most of the season, still dealing with, some injuries and Kemba Walker's out. And yeah, I think, if they're going to start playing defense this way again, like they did last year, I think they can, definitely get above 500 to end this season, which would be, I think, a success, in the much deeper East this year.
Well, I feel like the Shams and the Woj health and safety protocols tweets are finally dwindling down a little bit. You're probably noticing that on the NBA news side as well.
They are.
Maybe like after the All-Star break and heading into the postseason, we'll finally get an idea of like what these teams actually look like.
Yeah. Well, we're right at the halfway point for the most of these teams. I mean, the Knicks played their 42nd game tonight. So, it does look like it. Some teams are just kind of hanging around on those protocols. Like the Jazz have finally gotten hit a little bit here, and they had avoided it for a while. But, for the most part, I think we're coming out the other side now that like most of the NBA has gotten it. I think once we're going to hit All-Star break, we're going to hit trade deadline. So we're going to talk a lot of NBA over the next like 3 to 5 weeks. But I think correct me if I'm wrong, we want to save most of these pods for the exciting time that is the NFL right now, as we're about to start this really exciting postseason coming up.
Yeah, we've got a ton of NFL playoff news to discuss here, and we want to get into that. Quick off the top, just a heads up if you're following along. I myself just entered health and safety protocols, so if you're getting a little bit more nasally out of me today, or if a cough sneaks past the mute button, I do apologize. But the Main family has entered health and safety protocols, so we are down and out right now. But appreciate you guys bearing with me. As Gary mentioned, fun show planned, plenty of NFL playoff discussion. We're going to revisit a show from way back, it feels like, when we talked with Justin Herzig from the Owners Club, NFT, fantasy football, collectibles, kind of marrying all three together. Justin and his team over at the Owners Club, They've recently launched Playoff Best Ball, and it's been a ton of fun to start ripping packs and trying to build lineups. We're going to talk through that in a second here. But Gary, I think it's time that this becomes like an official show segment, and maybe we can workshop something like off air. We come back from a month-long break with Fanatics acquires Topps, PSA reopens regular tier. We've got NFL news, we've got Joe Burrow breaking records and historic numbers, and all of these great things happening around the hobby. And all any of our listeners want to hear about is Formula One. So it's clear that your enthusiasm, it's clear that this part of this small niche of the hobby has taken our listeners by storm, and they want more of it. So I don't know if we need to like workshop an actual segment title here. Winning Formula with Gary Hartman.
I like that one. I like that.
But I feel like the F1 minute just isn't enough. So there was some big news in the hobby this week, in the F1 hobby this week. Why don't you take it from there and kind of explain to the listeners, if they aren't familiar yet, what happened this week in F1?
Yeah. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sharing my screen here. So as you guys all know, I'm an OG of the F1 streets as far as cards are concerned. This first year was the first year for F1 cards. That's why it's such a big deal. It's why it's such a big product, 2020 Topps. And so shout out to the people at Blowout Cards, which you might know Blowout Cards from that, they're an online retailer of cards, one of the big 2 or 3 on the whole web internet. So like if you're ever looking just to see what wax prices are, they might be one of the places that you end up going on. They also have a breaking stream every day, which is the place that I've done a lot of my F1 breaking. And shout out to Matt over there, who's the host. He, kind of got on this train early and by far has broken more F1 tops than any other place in the entire world. There's no doubt about it. So it is only fitting that he is the one that pulled the card you see there on the screen, which is the 1-of-1 pink Papardashia, or however you want to say it. It's the Topps Chrome Sapphire version of a Superfractor 1-of-1 Lewis Hamilton card. What I think is easily a 6-figure card. Plus, if it grades out, way plus, can be well into the 6 figures. So big deal. This card surfaced. Huge deal. The biggest F1 card that probably has surfaced to date, this with the other gold vinyl that came out of the regular Topps box. But what has me tilted about this card, Cody, is I hadn't done a break in a long time. I honestly hadn't. I hadn't really been breaking in a while. I got married. I did all these things, and something compelled me to go on the stream that day and see if they had any F1, and let alone they did. And so, before this card was pulled, I was in about 8 rounds of F1 breaks, 6 to 8 rounds. I don't remember exactly. And of course, I hit nothing. I had to hop off actually to record a podcast, believe it or not. Stop doing the breaks, and I don't think it was the box right after I left, but the box right after that, this card came out of. So obviously, right when I hop off, that is when the life-changing, maybe the best F1 card in existence comes out into existence. And you can see what I have on the screen here is Golden Auctions put up the picture right away and said, "Hey, huge card. We'd love to have this." Obviously, it made the rounds that it was pulled, and congrats to the owner. I know I'm very happy for the guy that hit it because, besides myself, there's like 2 other guys on this stream that have probably pulled broken the most F1, that I know of, and I'm glad that it went to one of those 2 guys. So, congratulations to him. I don't think that the variation of this card has been pulled. So we've talked about how there's the base, which is the one you see on the screen here of like kind of him standing up. And then the variation is the one of them sitting down. I do not believe the one of the variations. So there is still something to kind of, really hunt in that product. But yeah, big F1 pull alert for sure.
If I'm not mistaken, and I was just searching before we hopped on here, I think the variation may have been pulled.
Oh, really?
Matt
of the Sapphire 101?
I think. Let me try and pull it up here.
You may be right. You may absolutely be right, and I just don't know what I'm talking about.
But I was just thinking the fact that you had to hop off for to do a podcast. I can only picture what would be going through Levitan's mind if you happen to tell him this, that, you've got this cardboard virgin here who was just about to make a 6-figure day, maybe upwards of 500,000 in some people's minds. And you hopped off to do a podcast, so you got this cardboard virgin who's hopping off to be a pod. It's almost, it's worse than late swapping.
It was to do my football pod also, which, if you guys, I'm sure some of you know, I have a football pod with my good friend Andy called Look Who's Chalking. It was our last week of DFS. And that was the reason I hopped off that. So not only that, I did it to talk about fake football, go from, being a cardboard virgin to, I'm not quite a spreadsheet virgin, but yeah, to talk about football. And, listen, it is what it is. I'm very happy for the owner. It's just crazy what happened. What's really crazy is that these boxes have gotten so expensive that they're like $2,500 box. So you split that in a break with 10 other people, you're still paying like $250 a spot. So it gets very expensive, but obviously the upside could be there. Now, what's really crazy is we were doing 1 box at a time. We used to do like 3 and 4 box breaks of this stuff because it was a lot cheaper. Now we're doing 1 box at a time, and it could have come out of any of those boxes, just happened to be the ones that he was pulling, when we were doing the group breaks wasn't that one. And of course it was sitting right there in front of my face in the same lot that I was pulling breaks from. So, brutal.
This is like the equivalent of putting a Millie Maker winning lineup into like a quarter arcade or something, or a double up. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Like you were there, you had you were
exactly.
Right time, right place, and you just had to hop off.
Exactly.
I'm gonna share my screen. You can tell me because I don't know F1
obviously
quite as well as you. Is this the one?
Was the same day? No, it is not. It is not the same.
Okay.
So this is basically, they have, actually I could show you too quickly. They have the base versions, which is what people are searching for, which is this one here. And then they have like these cards, which are they basically they make a card for every single Grand Prix win, essentially, or every single award that player got. Those are basically kind of considered your inserts or your whatever else. This card is a very nice card. Would probably fetch 4 figures, I'm guessing. But the variation, I could give you a picture of what that looks like here.
So this is almost like your Panini Instance type of card, if you will.
Kind of, sure.
To a degree.
Yeah. So this is what the variation would look like here. Let me pull it onto the same tab here. And I have a couple of, these two. So this here, you see how he's sitting down like that?
Okay.
The pink version of that has not been pulled yet. So that one's going to be even rarer because the variation is shorter printed. So, when that one does hit, that's the only way you can get a better version of that Sapphire card. To me, the 1/1 Sapphire is a more desirable card than the 1/1 Chrome. Just because Sapphire is a higher end product with less boxes made overall. So to me, that's the best Lewis Hamilton card in existence right now. I'm sure you can make an argument for the regular gold vinyl 1/1 as well. But yeah, again, congrats to the owner of that card. Again, in comparison to the one I hit, which is the purple, which was basically the third best variation of that exact same card. I got, what I talked about, I will sold that for around 16 a grand or whatever. This card is going to be worth, 6 figures plus. So,
right.
Big money. And also these boxes, what's crazy is, the box prices on Blowout have gone up $100 since this card came out, which explain that one to me. It doesn't make sense. Now the biggest chase card comes out and now they've gone up, but that's the demand for this stuff, man. It's crazy, just crazy. And we are about 3 weeks away. Supposedly they pushed this release back now a bunch of times, but 3 weeks away from the Topps paper, it sounds like, release of F1 2021. Says right now it says it's coming out as February 4th. So we'll see. But F1 is just, boy, does that stay hot.
Very cool pull for the hobby. Very awesome for F1 in general. We've talked obviously a lot about your cards and your breaks with Hamilton and Verstappen and what all went down last season. And obviously those two are at the very top of the sport. For those of us that are like late to the party and want to get involved, we can't hold off any longer. Our appetite is insatiable and your enthusiasm is rubbing off on us. Where do you suggest we begin? Should we be getting involved in a break? Should we be targeting specific drivers? Do you have any under the radar guys for the next racing calendar? Where's a good jumping off point for somebody like me who needs to get involved?
Great question. So I would say do not get in breaks. There's only a few places doing them, and it's just too expensive and really big downside. So unless you're taking it's basically me entering, like the $2,000 GPP every night, and expecting to yes, I was doing it for that card, right? Like I'm willing to take that swing, but it's not sustainable to be trying to gain F1 cards that way. Not anymore. When it first came out, it was. So I would be targeting individual drivers and buying singles on eBay and things like that. When the new boxes come out, depending on the price point, I would be trying to get them at retail off the website or off your local hobby shop. I think that's a good buy. But until then, I would be looking for individual drivers. And right now is a very good time to buy. You want to buy probably between. And despite the fact that the hype has stayed super hot, it's only going to get hotter once the Netflix series and the new season starts, which are happening within about 2 weeks of each other. So I think that's in March or April. So you have.
I know the next season starts March 20th.
Yeah, end of March. Yeah. So you basically have between now, the middle of January, and the end of March that is considered the off season, where I would be looking to do some buying. And yeah, again, I talked about how next season's probably going to have a lot more parity in the sport due to a lot of rule changes around the engine and protocols around the car. So I'd be looking at some of these young stars that may have a chance to actually compete. Lando Norris, here's his base of the exact same card in the Sapphire form. Literally have it here because I was about to put it up actually. So this is the driver that maybe I'd be looking at. George Russell is the guy that's going to Mercedes, but because of that, his stuff is really skyrocketed in value. And I think the speculation on him is like John Morant level, and people are really buying into that. So Lando had a real peak in the middle of the season when he was like kind of third and fourth in the driver standings. He had a bunch of podiums. He's on McLaren, which is a really strong team right now. And I think that he can come out really hot. And it was his rookie card in the 2020 class as well, as true rookie. So compared to his companion in George Russell, who's kind of drawn up all the hype because of going to Mercedes, I think he can kind of get in on Lando now at more of an affordable entry point. This card right here goes for raw anywhere from between like $150 and $180 right now. The variation of that would be a little bit more, the one of him sitting down, but I think that's a great entry point for people going after someone like him, because I'm confident once the season rolls back around that his stuff will start going up again.
Yeah, and those two guys that you mentioned, Lando, baby Lando, as
Yep.
I've seen some people affectionately
Oh, yeah,
refer to him as,
he's a baby.
22 years old.
Yep.
George Russell's only 23. Right? If you look at odds for the Formula One World Championship in 2022 on DraftKings, Lewis Hamilton obviously the favorite at plus 100, Verstappen at plus 245, and then you have those guys, George Russell plus 500, Charles Leclerc, and then Lando down at 40-1. It's a precipitous drop off after those first couple of guys. But if you think that there is a driver that has a shot to make some noise this season, Lando, George Russell makes some sense. Once you've identified a few drivers that you're looking to target, you mentioned a couple of the cards that you're looking at. Are we kind of taking the same approach that we do in NFL and NBA, or is this any different because it's shorter printed? Like, should we still be targeting shorter printed refractors and serial numbered cards, or should we feel a little bit more safe about some of the base cards that we can get our hands on, just given the different print runs?
Yeah, I think for and this is what makes this kind of unique for F1, is you don't have to target the straight base from the regular Chrome product, because Sapphire does exist. So I would be going after the Sapphire base because it's a refractor inherently. So yeah, this is a base card, but it's a Sapphire base card. You know what I mean? So I'd be going after that because they're shorter printed. They are the Topps version of an inherent prism of a refractor. So that is what I'd be going after. Instead of the base. Now, I think a base graded, you could look for that, and that would be an affordable entry point as well. And I think that's fine because there's not going to be so much of those either. But, the regular Topps, the non-Sapphire product has refractors, like their version of silvers. I think those are awesome entry points for guys like Lando and George, and I'll mention some other names as well. And then I also think these in Sapphire, these are like basically the same thing that you showed me of that Hamilton, variations of the rookie cards. So this one is from when he considered Grand Prix driver of the day, but the fact that it still has the rookie card logo on it. Yeah. You can get these for anywhere for $8 to $15 a pop. These are just the different variations. I sell these in lots usually. So I'll put 3 or 4 of these in a lot and make $50 to $80 on that. So maybe they're more like $30 a pop, but and I think those are George and Lando both have those, and they all have the rookie logos on them. This one too, this is called the Freshest Series. Looks more like one of the actual base cards. And so I think those are also good entry points for those guys. Base is better in F1 than some of the other places because the circulation on this stuff, they didn't know what it was going to be. It's not like they printed this stuff out the wazoo like they're going to do for Topps Chrome or for Prism,
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you bring up about the rookie card logo being on those. It's not a direct one-for-one comparison, but it reminds me of when I was buying Hamzat in the UFC. That was Panini's debut Prism product for the UFC, and Hamzat was kind of that premier rookie. He wasn't Khabib level, he wasn't Conor level yet. Maybe he gets to that point, but if you get one of these rookies from this debut Topps F1 class, that becomes kind of the next, Lewis Hamilton's 37. These guys are 22, 23 years old. If you get that next big rookie from that debut class, that could have some serious staying power. So yeah, really good point.
For sure. And, in this next series, there's going to be a couple rookies in that one, and Mick Schumacher included, whose dad was considered the GOAT up until Lewis Hamilton. He's stuck on a very bad team in Haas, but he has a lot of love in the hobby, even for his version of prospect cards, basically his F2 cards, which are in F1. I think those are a really strong purchase as well, and they sell pretty well. So you got Mick Schumacher, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Guyani Zhu, who's one of the best F2 drivers. He's Chinese. That's a big deal for international. He's coming up to drive with Alfa Romeo in F1 this year. So you can get some of their F2 cards, in the 2020 product. I think those are pretty good buys as well.
All right. I hope that fills your guys' bellies for at least another week. Gary and I will workshop this, this segment off air, whether we can do this weekly or bi-weekly. Certainly during the season, there's going to be a race recap and
we'll do
whatnot. But this has become an interesting segment, and I need to get more up to speed so I can hang with Gary a little bit more. But
we're getting you. I'm getting you to watch Drive to Survive before the next season starts. We got to get you on board. It's the best.
It's funny because I committed to it around the same time that you got started with it, which was back in May or April or whatever of last year.
Yep.
Now at this point, but just never
got around
to it.
It's not like you have a wife and kids and a full-time job or anything.
I know, right? It's like the second that the kids heads hit the pillow, it's like, can daddy just sit, please?
And then also full-time job, and then sheet virgining out on the whatever the
make sure the tight end 3 pass target rate.
Cooper Rush's college stats, and can he actually be a no, I know how it goes over in the Main household. I've never been there, but I could picture it quite well.
So. Speaking of Cooper Rush, he hopefully will not be taking any snaps this postseason, but we do have NFL postseason action. You guys actually hit us with some good NFL questions in our DMs, which we highly encourage you to do. If you guys ever have any questions collecting, whether it be player specific or card specific or just general market questions, feel free to hit up Gary or I or the show account. We both see that.
Tweet at the show or DM, whatever it is. If we can, we'll answer on the show, or if we don't know, we'll let you know we don't know. But
we've got some time, so let's work in a couple of questions that we both got this week. We got a really good question from Jonathan, who I think we've got a very timely question from him. He sent Gary and I 3 eBay links with 3 different Justin Herbert cards and asked which one we think has the best chance at long-term value. I think this is a good opportunity for us to answer Jonathan's question if he's looking to make a purchase this offseason, but also kind of take this as a macro approach on how we approach which cards we want to target as much as which players we want to target. So if you're following along, I highly encourage you guys to check out the show on YouTube if you haven't yet, just the Establish the Run YouTube channel. These shows usually go up a day after they hit your podcast feed. So to get all the visual aids that we're talking about here, Gary has a 2020 Panini Immaculate Justin Herbert rookie card, quad patch, numbered out of 49, I believe. It is graded a PSA 10. I think it's on eBay. Buy it now for like $1,079, if I've got it pulled up there right. And then he's also got a 2020 Justin Herbert Select Disco Red out of 49, also graded PSA 10. And then the last one is a 2021 Kaboom Justin Herbert, graded PSA 9. So why don't we start here, Gary, just by answering Jonathan's simple question. Which one do we think has the best chance at maintaining value long-term?
Yeah, a great question. All 3 cards are obviously very nice Justin Herbert cards that should have sustained value. I think he picked these 3. They're all in similar buy it now tiers, but they all have something else going for them. 2 of them are 10s and 2 of them are rookie cards, and then one of them is a case hit, short printed non-rookie card, and is a 9. So let's start there. Obviously, the Kaboom is what people really chase in that absolute set. Is the case hits usually 1 or 2 per case and are super short printed. I do think for this last year of absolute there were more Kabooms than normal. I don't have it, we don't know the exact numbers on these, but just the amount that I've seen pull out of them, it does seem like because of the card industry really booming and the Kaboom set particularly getting a lot of love. I think Panini threw a couple more in this year. That just speculation. Obviously, I don't have numbers for that. It's impossible to have numbers for that other than pop accounts. That mixed with the fact that it's a second-year card and a PSA 9, not a 10. This would be my 3rd out of the 3 for me. Despite the fact that it's probably the most aesthetically pleasing. I love a Kaboom. If this was obviously his rookie card, it would go for a ton more, and we wouldn't even be talking about it, but I'd feel differently. But that's, I would put this as the 3rd of 3 here. What do you think about the Kaboom?
Yep, I agree for all of the same reasons. I know there's a lot of Kaboom set chasers out there as well. People just looking to get complete sets, Kabooms for each player of every year, just Kaboom sets for the entire year for just to complete a checklist. So I know that this being a case hit will obviously hold some value just in and of itself, regardless of who the player is. Obviously, being Justin Herbert is a big deal, second-year card, but agree for all the same reasons. Not his rookie card, graded PSA 9, and then I think we can quickly put that one aside as number 3 and move on to the next 2. So do you have a clear-cut number 1?
Yeah. So for me, number 1 would be the select version here. And, it's actually closer than you might think. Obviously, I think a lot of people think, oh, yeah, slabbed up, either select optic or prism, 10, and it's a colored and it's, a refractor. We know the circulation. My only hesitancy here, and this is probably a personal bias thing, I'm not huge on the disco or the no huddle or the bubbles look. To me, it's a little bit of a lesser product. It's like kind of minor leagues of select or prism, if you will, for me. So it's not something that I'm chasing. But I think that's reflected in the price. If this was a regular red select or whatever it is, or an out of 49 out of the regular select prism, I think this would be more than a $1,500 card. But this would be my number one for the fact that it is a 10. It is a true select rookie. The club level is a one of the shorter printed sets of the select sets there. It's a very nice looking card. So to me, that would be the number one. I think it is the best investment piece. I think if you're looking for a personal collection piece and you're into Herbert, though, I would definitely go with this immaculate piece, which also has the rookie card logo on it. Also a 10 for a thicker stock, which is hard to get. And really nice, what do we got? 4-color patch there. We got a white, a light blue, yellow, and the dark blue in there. So I think, when you get a 4-color, really nice patch with the rookie logo on the 10, I think that'd be my favorite if I'm just looking to collect and hold for myself.
Yeah, agreed. I gave Jonathan basically that same answer in the DMs before we hopped on the show. I agreed that if you're looking for an investment piece, that the Red Disco Select was probably number one. Although I agreed, it isn't as runaway as you might think. But that 4-color patch is pretty cool on the Immaculate. I just think in terms of an investment piece, if someone is out there looking to buy a high-end or higher-end Justin Herbert patch card, they're probably looking more towards like a National Treasure type of thing, although that may be in a different ballpark in and of itself. But you get a colored select refractor, numbered out of 49, PSA 10, going to be a low pop card. I just think it's an aesthetically pleasing card as well. So I think that if you're looking at just a specific Justin Herbert piece to invest in right now, that would be number one for me, Jonathan. Taking this a step
I'll
further.
sell you this too. I got a Spectra pink.
There you go.
Also 4-color.
A nice patch on that one too.
Prism,
yeah.
RPA out of 25. Probably similar price rate. It might be a little bit more than some of these, but similar because it's Spectra and it's not an on-card autograph. So
and a friends and family discount from Gary.
Yep.
Friends and family discount from
there
Gary.
You go. Also, yeah. I also have this Herbert, which is a National Treasures RPA glove patch autograph.
Nice.
I don't know how much this one's worth, but I got it. I had a bunch of Herbert here that I was thinking about selling during the season. If he made the playoffs, I was going to start offloading some of it, but then he didn't. And so
brother, that can be a whole nother discussion in and of itself, which we can maybe get to in a second here. I want to wrap up this question in a bow. I don't know if there's an easy way to give a short, succinct answer to this question, but do you have like a thought process that, hey, I'm looking at identifying a player in the offseason, or I found a player in the offseason that I want to invest in. I know I want to invest in player X. Here's the cards that I'm specifically targeting for this player, whether it be because of era or whether it be because of sport. Do you have a elimination process, if you will, or a process that you go through for identifying which cards you want?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, do you want to use the example of the question that maybe we were gonna go to for an because I think I can use that player as a pretty good example here.
Let's do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So next question we got was from Javier. Javier asked if I was going to be looking at buying any Russell Wilson, looking at some deals throughout the offseason. Obviously, we know what happened with Russ in the second half of the 2021 season. Had the finger injury. Things went really south for the Seahawks. We get to a point in the back half of the season where Rashad Penny looks like the best Seahawks player on the roster. So it is a great question, I think, to answer twofold. Will we be looking to buy Russ? And if we are looking to buy Russ, what are we looking to buy? Because he is one of these specific cases where we've got tops, we've got prism, and we've got higher end stuff, lower end stuff. We've got silver refractors, base cards, low pop counts, higher pop counts. I think this is a perfect player to think about when we're thinking about which cards we should be buying if we've identified that Russ is someone that we want to buy this offseason.
Yep. So let's talk a couple things here before we get into the specific cards of how I'm going to approach which cards I'm looking at as specific pieces. Let's talk timing. Obviously, he was just eliminated, or his season just ended, if you will. But what happens between right now and the Super Bowl is NFL dominates the news cycles. And that's not just the playoff teams. That's coaching searches. That's GM searches. That's trade speculation, especially for this specific example here. That's a lot of things, right? So what I want to do before I'm starting to buy here is I want to start monitoring trends right now, not ready to pull the trigger necessarily this instant, because I think while these people's names stay top of mind, especially superstars like this, when people speculate, somebody hires X coach, does that mean that he's got ties to Russ through X, Y, and Z? Once that starts kind of percolating, that can lead to a steady or a rise in price rather than a dip that we'd like to see in the offseason. So I'm not buying the second the season ends. What I want to do is wait till after the Super Bowl in all likelihood and find that sweet spot between when football falls out of the news cycle a little bit and before free agency and draft talk starts to really pick up. And it's a little bit more sensitive for someone like Russ Wilson because he is someone that might legitimately be traded this offseason, right? So we also want to find that time where before that trade is pulled, the trigger is pulled on the trade because there will be a natural bump right then. That also makes him a more of a desirable target to target this offseason because you might have a quick opportunity for some profits here if he does indeed get traded. We're not going to be that podcast that speculates on trade rumors and be like, oh, well, if this happens, X, Y, and Z. I don't want to do that. But it's all just to kind of plant the seed in your head. It's a lot more of a complicated investment process than you may think. Timing is everything, like many other investments are. And it's no different, especially when you're talking about quarterbacks and something like that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Once I decide that I know that this isn't the exact time I want to buy, I want to wait about a month, 6 weeks till after the Super Bowl. That's when I'd maybe be looking to make my move. That doesn't mean that you don't start monitoring trends and prices before then. So what I'm looking to do, as you mentioned, Russell Wilson, we'll use him as an example, is someone that has the 2012 class. So it has both Topps and Prism. So I want to first compare the two cards. So Prism, the PSA 10, it is one of those ones with a big rookie on the bottom. Yeah. Probably not as aesthetically pleasing to me. Definitely not as the Topps Chrome. But that said, it might hold a little bit more of a premium because Prism right now still dominates. So the Pop 10 at pop of 506, you can see it with a value of 651 right now. Over the last year, down 25%. Okay, so you think maybe you can get a little bit of a thing. Over the last 2 weeks, only 3 sales, but up 15%. So I just start monitoring these kind of numbers, see if there's any major trends, any major sales. Check it out every day. The same way you would look up your Robinhood every day, check out these graphs and these trends every day. Then you go over to the Topps Chrome, do the same thing. Let's I don't know what you're going to be, what your budget is. Are you just looking for the base, or you're looking for a refractor? That's all something you'd have to consider. But if you're just looking at base, okay, you see, why is this card half the price? Well, the pop's $1,100 mixed with the fact that it is a Topps card over Panini. Maybe that's one of the reasons as well. The refractor only has a pop of 20 and has a value of 18. To me, that's a much better investment. If you could find one at that price and it's within your range, the circulation on that is very, very low. These are all things that I'm starting to monitor, and then I decide which one I want to attack at that point. I think both in this particular case are actually pretty good investments. Neither pop is through the roof, especially for a base card. This is 1,100. I probably would trend towards the Prism, knowing it's about half the pop and double the price. That's just kind of my general thesis or the way I'd like to go. I'd want the one that has less circulation. It has the better chance at long-term increase and long-term delta, in my opinion. But that's the way you do it. So I'm looking at the offseason. I'm looking for the flagship cards for a lot of these guys. If you want to try to get a little bit, a different, you can look at some of the paper stuff as well if your budget's a little lower. But what I would do if your budget's a little higher is look at something like Contenders or some of his on-card autograph stuff as well. That stuff that has pops of about half of the Prism. So now you're going down in rarity. This is a graded version of this, but you can probably find one raw or graded for less than that, and it probably becomes more affordable at that point. But yeah, these cards are, if this guy makes the Hall of Fame, if he has another Super Bowl run, are super, super safe. When you're looking at someone like Russell Wilson, who has a Hall of Fame track and resume already, no matter what investment you make, it is safe on the back end, at least, one day he's probably putting on so then you're just trying to figure out what are you trying to do with that card? Is it a short term? Is it a long term? Is it a collector piece for you? And those are all the decisions you make. If it's a collector's piece, I'm just looking for the Topps paper or Topps Chrome. Probably, to me, that's great. If I'm looking for long term, a delta or just long term, safe put away investment, I'm looking at as rare as I can find that my budget allows. I'm looking at a refractor. I'm looking at Contenders. I'm looking at Patch Auto. That's what I'm trying to do. It's probably the time to attack.
You nailed it. So much of this is just going to come down to your budget and your goals, obviously. But I think the listeners and the viewers getting a look inside your head when you're going through making these purchases, and not necessarily trying to time the absolute bottom of the market, but just understanding natural ebbs and flows of the NFL hobby and how that's trended over the last couple of years, finding the right time to buy, not necessarily right after they get bounced from the regular season, but more so when the hobby talk has died down in the NFL. The Super Bowl is over with. People are more focused on the NBA season. People are more focused on maybe spring training and MLB coming back and a variety of other things. And that's when the time to pounce might be for these players. And just hearing you talk through trends that you're looking for, sales points, data, all of that stuff is going to help people in making better collecting decisions when they have found a player that they're interested in buying.
Yep. And I'll just put a bow on this conversation where if you are just looking for you, and even so, I actually think this is just a great purchase. The PSA 9 of the refractor version of his Topps Chrome, only a pop of 325, is a sub $300 card right now. To me, what a great purchase, especially if you're just looking for you and you like Russell Wilson. This will be the one I am attacking here if you could find it. Absolutely. There you go.
All right, from a guy that is clearly on a Hall of Fame track to a guy that has started out his career very much in the same ilk, Joe Burrow. We talked about him last week with our playoff discussion and our playoff best ball draft on Underdog. We're going to give away a little Joe Burrow because you guys came out in full force, bumped up those ratings and reviews on iTunes, tweeted at us a bunch. You guys were fantastic. We appreciate you showing us the love. So Gary's got the cards ready.
Yep.
We're going to pull a name from anyone who has given us a review on iTunes to this point. 100 of you now. We've crossed triple digits. Again, really appreciate you guys doing that. Continue to do so. Tell us, any content you want to hear going forward, anything else you want to see out of us. I'm going to share my screen here. I believe that I've got everyone in there. And we're going to spin this bad boy and see how it goes.
Man, look at that big ass wheel.
Look at that. All those names, all those wonderful, beautiful listeners. D.E. Cook 387.
All right. D.E. Cook. Congratulations. These Joe Burrow cards are yours. DM Cody or myself or the show on Twitter. And we will get them out to you. Just send us your address. We'll get them out. So congratulations. You get, again, speaking of on Mosaic release day, by the way, 2021 Mosaic, you get 2 Mosaic rookies. One is a Mosaic Prism and of the NFL debut version, plus his base Mosaic, plus the big boy here, the base Prism, which is centered and looks good, and a regular debut Mosaic as well. So you get a little lot of 4 Burrow cards where, 3-4 days out before his first playoff game. Very excited to see how he does.
All right, I'm going to share my screen again one more time here because we're going to go into our friends at the Owners Club. And I forgot to mention that Justin Herzig, friend of the show, I can say that now officially because he's been on the show, commissioner at the Owners Club, brains behind this playoff best ball tournament that they're running over there with these collectibles NFTs that they have allowed us to give away a pack on their behalf. So we're going to spin the wheel here for that. Again, same way, once you've listened to this, reach out to us with the details that we can send this to. If you do not have an account yet at the Owners Club, you can sign up. You can use promo code Cody, get signed up over there. You can purchase your playoff best ball packs if you have not done so already, or if you win this, you get one for free. We're going to talk about how this goes. So for that, our winner is M. Jared Laws.
All right, M.
Jared
Jared Laws.
To you. If you do not have an Owners Club account, you can create one now. Again, you guys can use promo code Cody and get set up over there, and then send Gary, myself, or the show a DM. Let us know your account details. We will send you a free playoff best ball pack. So without further ado, let's start talking about this because we've got plenty of NFL playoff content to discuss, and it's going to definitely impact the card market here. So I think let's just talk through it from the lens of the Owners Club. We'll kind of discuss this, and we'll get some matchup discussion in there. It should be some really, really interesting talk here. So I'm going to share my screen one more time.
Oops, 1 second. Sorry. Go ahead. There we go.
Let's pull up just kind of the basics of what this is. So most of you, obviously, if you listen to the show back during the regular season when the Owners Club launched their NFT fantasy football game, you're familiar with this. You've probably seen it on Twitter or elsewhere if you haven't played already. What this is, you purchase a playoff best ball pack. It comes with 20 randomized city/position card. So the important thing to remember about this as we get into this, you don't get a player, you get a position and a city. So for example, you get Kansas City quarterback. So God forbid Patrick Mahomes goes down in the postseason, you get their backup, whoever that may be. I don't know who it is at this point. You get their backup. Same thing with Green Bay running back. You don't get Aaron Jones, you get Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon and Patrick Taylor and everybody else that would be involved. So from those 20 cards that you receive in your pack, you build your own NFT. So that's another important thing to keep in mind. This is one NFT. Your entire playoff best ball roster is a singular NFT. Right?
Oh, wow. See, I didn't even realize that.
Right. So you select 12 cards to create your playoff best ball lineup from the 20 that show up in your pack. So you kind of have a little bit of game theory here. You might have some really bad cards in those 20 cards. You might have some really good ones. You might have to make some tough decisions in filling out a 12-person roster. It will consist of a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, tight end, DST, and a super flex, which is an interesting twist. So you can play a quarterback at the flex position if you would like. So, and then of course, because it is best ball, as you guys are all familiar with at this point, you don't have to submit a lineup each week, right? The Owners Club will calculate your highest scoring lineup of each week, and then that just accumulates throughout the entirety of the postseason, and then a winner is crowned at the end of the season. The interesting part of this, which we'll talk about a little bit too, is because you mint this lineup as an NFT, it becomes a collectible. It becomes something that you can then sell on their secondary marketplace. So we were just talking off air that I pulled a pretty sweet pack that I thought was pretty nice. If you're looking at like a Super Bowl matchup down the road, if I mint this lineup as an NFT, I could then post it on the secondary market rather than letting it ride throughout the playoffs. And somebody might think it's worth $100, $200, $500, who knows? So I think there's some interesting kind of game theory to talk about here as we talk about playoff matchups. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, this is really interesting. See, I haven't gotten involved yet. But yeah, wow. I love the fact that it mints into an NFT, your lineup. That is really, really cool. Very creative. What a way to differentiate it from a regular best ball format, or just a regular, digital NFT collectible. Being able to kind of both make it a fantasy game, but kind of being able to have your own ability to mint your own NFT as a lineup. Basically create your own value based off your own thought process. That's really, I think that's awesome. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah. So obviously some serious utility here, right? So this isn't the collectible in the sense of an NBA Top Shot. This isn't the collectible in the sense of, the Joe Burrow cards that Gary is sending out. More so in the sense that this is a digital NFT that holds the utility of your playoff best ball lineup. So let's look at the pack that I was just mentioning. And maybe Gary can talk me through this, and we can help build out this roster. Because as I was mentioning to him, I've got a pretty sick.
You got a hell of a pack here.
20 card pack that I think I'm gonna have to make some tough decisions.
My God, you can see, you ran real hot.
I ran extremely hot. So the way that when you purchase these packs, the way that they'll all look is you'll start with 2 quarterbacks for sure, as you can see up here in the top, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 2 DSTs. And then the rest could just be, you could have the rest of them could theoretically be defenses. The rest of them could all theoretically be running backs. Obviously, it's randomized. That's very unlikely to happen. But you're always going to get 2 of each position so you can, have some options to fill out your lineup here, right? Once you've at least met the minimum requirements, at least to my understanding, there is no maximum requirements. If you wanted to play 7 DSTs, go for it. As long as you can fill out a roster of each position, you can kind of do whatever the heck you want after that. So let's start off the top. I've got Tampa Bay quarterback. Obviously, we really like Tom Brady.
I think I'm interested in him.
Yep. Okay. The Rams quarterback, we were talking off air. We're pretty interested in the Rams' chances and Matthew Stafford. We a guy that we liked from a collectibles aspect during the offseason. What would be an incredible ride to finish off with a Super Bowl run for him. Definitely. And his collectibles, obviously. San Francisco running back, maybe not as thrilled about them, but you've got Elijah Mitchell there. They're a team that likes to run the rock.
They definitely do.
Green Bay, you've got Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, as
love that
aforementioned.
Yep.
Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk here with the 49ers wide receiver. Rams wide receivers, obviously we know what we got going on there with Cooper Kupp. Talk about his collectibles market, at least from a skill position point, was red hot this season. You got Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, Van Jefferson. I think you can get pretty excited about that. And then as we continue to go through here, Buffalo tight end, KC tight end, Rams D, Philly D, Dallas wide receiver.
Nice
CD,
card.
another guy that's got some hobby love as well from the skill position standpoint. New England tight end, not so thrilled about that. Pitt wide receiver, KC running back. I think we really like this one just in the sense that we like their odds of advancing deep into the playoffs. And then you don't have to guess which one is going to score for you, Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Darrell Williams.
Yeah, like we're all trying to do over at Underdog right now.
Right. And then the big one that really threw a wrench into my plans when I pulled over the Tampa Bay quarterback and the Rams quarterback. I got KC quarterback here.
Unbelievable.
Right?
Unbelievable.
So we got Patrick Mahomes, the absolute king of the hobby behind Tom Brady right now. So I think I've got some interesting moves here, right? We're obviously optimizing for the Super Bowl on this lineup. And I think I've got a pretty stout Rams stack. If I start plugging in, I've got the Rams quarterback, the Rams wide receiver, the Rams defense, and the Rams running back. So I pretty much fill out a complete roster. If the Rams make the Super Bowl, I'm accumulating points for every week of the playoffs.
Yep.
And obviously, if they made the Super Bowl, they're probably performing pretty well. Likewise, with the Chiefs, I've got Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City quarterback. I've got Travis Kelce, which probably one of the top picks in these playoff best ball formats when you're drafting Chiefs running back and Chiefs DST, right? So I think if I'm thinking about this for optimizing throughout the playoffs, I'm looking at a KC Rams stack and then starting to fill out from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's pretty much the only way to go here. The only other
Right.
thing you can consider is going to KC stack, and then if you faded your Rams pieces and took your mini stack in San Francisco with like your Green Bay piece, your Tampa piece, and your Dallas piece, and just like kind of piece together NFC on the other side of KC. But I think it's not that doesn't sound optimal to me, and so I would think you go with the when you have the 4 and the 4, I think that's the way you go for sure.
So I think you would only want one DST in these type of lineups, right? Because they're not ever outscoring too much. The scoring's pretty random. It's tough to predict. And you would rather just have more wide receivers and running backs to help you advance and score points, right? It doesn't make much sense to have multiple DSTs.
I think definitely. Multiple DSTs, probably not. Now the question is figuring out if in any given game, if one team's offense doesn't get there, but they win, the defense does get there. So which of these two teams is more likely for that to happen? Is my question.
Here's where I'm at, and we're obviously very high on the Chiefs. We've been very high on the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes was the guy that we were talking about when they were 1-4.
I hope everyone listened to us, by the way, about buying Patrick Mahomes at the
as a perfect buy low candidate. We were making Ryan Reynolds and I were making future bets on MVP. Obviously, those didn't cash. We were making future bets on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. We're trying to scoop up as much card action as we could, whether it be fractional or full physical cardboard. There was no better buying window for Patrick Mahomes when they started as poorly as they did. There was just no way that was going to continue. And we've seen what they've done over the course of the last half of the season. Now they look like the best team in football. They get the Steelers, man. In week 1, they're double-digit favorites in the wild card round. Then I think that they're just going to go on a run here.
Okay,
obviously
so
you can't bank on that.
Casey's D, and their defense also, second half of the season was one of the better in the league, and they scored at a pretty prolific rate as well for fantasy purposes. So yeah, I think they're the one to go to. I would agree.
Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. I think with the super flex option, and I don't know how, I haven't looked at the playoff bracket. This might inform that decision a little bit, but I think having Tom Brady as kind of like,
you got to put him in there. Yep.
And if we get them in like an NFC championship game, I don't know if the bracket lines up that way, but you get the Bucks and the Rams in like an NFC championship game or going deep, and you get both of those points accumulating that deep into the playoffs. I think that's a massive, massive edge on this lineup. Okay. I think another automatic for me is Dallas wide receiver.
Yep.
Because they're going to avoid that San Francisco side. Obviously, if we think the Rams are going to do as well as they do, they're going to put the 49ers.
We should be aiming for these NFC teams other than the Niners, because there's no point in us putting the Niners in unless we're trying to hedge those 3 Rams things. But the second we do that, does this NFT really have a chance if the Rams are eliminated? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know if it makes sense to put the 2 Niners pieces in, but the Packers running back, it definitely does.
Packers for sure, because this is cumulative. So, missing out on that first round of points is tough. Certainly we'd like them to not have had the first round bye because this is cumulative, but we got AJ Dillon, we've got Aaron Jones. I think that they're going to be favored in any game that they play up there in Lambeau.
Agreed.
They're gonna have a good shot to get there. So maybe we get, we've got another NFC team here, assuming that our AFC team and the Chiefs just kind of rolls through. Who else are we looking at here?
So I think I'd go to Buffalo tight end. And just
Dawson Knox. Yeah, Dawson Knox has been a guy that I've been buying, been purchasing a lot of on Underdog. So
yeah, me too. Cold weather playoffs. I think he's become a favorite of Josh Allen's for sure. And obviously we're banking on the Chiefs here, but that doesn't mean the Bills can't make a run also. And again, like when we're talking about game theory, to me, it still doesn't make sense to necessarily pair the Niners with the Rams, given that first round. I know the Rams playing the Cardinals, right? What am I talking about here?
No, I think the Rams are. Yeah, the Rams are playing the Cardinals. You're right.
Yeah.
I got that mixed up too. The Rams
it's because they played them last week.
The Rams just played the 49ers. I was just thinking about that because
it might make sense to go take out the Bills and just do the two Niners ones.
Do the two Niners.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm glad we caught that because I was going to mint this with not even knowing the right playoff matchups. But we had just talked about this off air that the 49ers have a chance to beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, right. The 49ers playing Dallas. That shows where both of our brains are out right now at 12:30 on early Thursday morning. But so we were obviously our heads were in week 18 there. But because the Niners are playing the Cowboys, what you basically did here now is we have a lot of those NFC side covers. So as long as KC rolls through, we pretty much, to me, we have all the NFC contenders really covered there because we have the Bucks, the Niners, the Packers, and the Cowboys. I would be surprised if it's not one of those 5 teams, making it out of the NFC. So yeah.
And just thinking about the team that I'm going to be putting together for what will eventually be the Super Bowl. Obviously, we're banking on the Chiefs making it, right? The only thing that I would get worried about is if we get a Chiefs and a Packers Super Bowl. Then I do not have the wide receiver position full in the Super Bowl, which would be an obvious bummer. Then similarly, if we have Tampa Bay, then I'm dealing with a situation where I would not have a wide receiver full. But I'll take those chances. Again, this is cumulative, so it's not all about just optimizing for the Super Bowl. Obviously, you want to be scoring as many points in every week as you can. But I like this team. This isn't even one that I'm going to save for later because once you mint this thing, you can't change a damn thing about it. But looking at the roster, I've got Philly, I've got Pitt, I've got New England wide receiver. I don't want anything to do with any of those positions. So I'm looking at this, man. I ran extremely hot with this pack for the first pack that I opened up on the Owners Club.
Hey, totally, man. Totally. Yeah, I'm excited. You know what? By the way, these retail for only $20. Not too bad at all. I'm gonna dive in after the show here. I'm pumped. You got me excited.
All right, this is going to mint now.
Oh hell yeah!
And guys, keep in mind, like Gary and I were just joking about this. We were kind of lamenting the fact that neither of us have any idea what to do when it comes to the blockchain or MetaMask or the NFTs or any of this stuff. Like, we're total boomers, and you guys know that from us talking more about cardboard than we do NFTs. Obviously, we know where we come from. We know our roles. If I can figure this out, you guys can figure this out. And if you can't figure it out, hop on the Owners Club Discord. There's people answering questions constantly. So don't feel intimidated by this. This is a very, very, very simple process. Very cool concept. Appreciate Justin and the Owners Club giving us a pack to give away. Hopefully this kind of gave you the ins and outs of that. Why don't we just go through? I won't mint this one, but I've got a couple more unopened packs here. Let's just go through the pack opening process. Everyone loves that, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Let's open up one of these now, and we won't worry about going through the whole lineup configuration here or not. But there's some audio. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear that. Can you guys hear that?
No, I can't. Let me see if I can share it. I don't know why I can't get it going right now.
That's what. Then I won't be vibing over here by myself. I will mute my audio so I can focus on the show. So as you can see here, our 20 spots, you could, do the thing that psychopaths do and just reveal them all at once. But we want to kind of have the fun little sweat here of opening up each one at once. All right, let's start here. We know these are going to be our quarterbacks. Oh, baby.
Wow, look at that.
Let's just keep the streak going. We got the Bucks quarterback. Obviously feel pretty good about Tom Brady's chances of scoring fantasy points in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Okay, not so much about Jimmy Garoppolo's chances of scoring fantasy points in the playoffs, but
still a quarterback.
Maybe Trey Lance gets in there a little bit. All right, San Francisco running back again. I see a little stack starting up here. We'll see what happens at wide receiver.
Okay, that's interesting.
Patriots running back. That's an interesting one because they are going to be a team that runs the ball, leaning, allowing a guy that we've talked plenty about on this podcast, Mac Jones, to just kind of sit back and put it in their bellies with Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. We'll see what happens there.
100%.
Dallas wide receiver again. Probably my favorite wide receiver group in the entire NFL. So I feel pretty cool about that.
Yep.
Okay, we've got San Francisco wide receiver here. So
all right, so you got a stack going there.
We got a stack going.
I don't hate San Francisco. They can make a run.
They can absolutely make a run, and if they do, then it doesn't matter what we feel about Jimmy Garoppolo. They're going to be scoring points. So this is okay. Now, I mean, look at this. Look at this. We've got a full-blown stack here. George Kittle, a guy that we feel obviously very good about in the playoffs if they can make a run.
100%.
I think we've got the start of a very strong NFC stack here. Let's see what happens with the rest of the team. We don't have very many AFC options yet. Never feel good about a Pittsburgh DST going up against Patrick Mahomes as double-digit dogs, even though they've got TJ Watt.
Oh, look at that! That's a big guy. That's a big one to get in this one.
That gets interesting. Okay. Pick quarterback. Don't feel good about Big Ben. I don't know if Big Ben.
That's probably the worst card we could possibly get right now.
Buddy, I think we're getting a AFC stack here, though. We're getting an AFC stack. Hold your horses. Pit wide receiver. Okay.
All right. Oh, boy.
We know what we're doing. This is the perfect hedge off of the last team.
Here we go. Steelers. Here we go. Pittsburgh.
Now we get KC quarterback.
Super Bowl. Wow. Unbelievable. You're just
unbelievable.
You're running hot pulling Mahomes here. What?
And Rodgers. Oh. This is incredibly fun, man. This is
how about
I can see myself and Mac Jones, baby. This is Mac Jones.
You got a ton of quarterbacks here.
A ton of quarterbacks to choose from. So I guess I don't know if we even need to go crazy with stacking. I mean, anything can happen in the postseason. Can Big Ben in his last hurrah go to Arrowhead and beat Patrick Mahomes as double-digit dogs throwing 3 yards at a time? Sure.
Anything's possible.
Sure. Anything is possible. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Do I want to build this lineup that's got a nice little NFC stack here with all these quarterback options around that happening? Probably not. So this will be a fun one to play with. I won't put you guys through the torture of me trying to find out how I'm going to do that. But you guys can see how fun this is. Extremely, extremely addicting. As Gary mentioned, low entry point of $20. So if you guys were going to throw around a few, milli makers, or going to draft a little bit on underdog, you might as well hop over to the Owners Club, get signed up over there, and play a few of these packs. Mint them. If you get a sick lineup and you don't feel comfortable, you want to just take some quick profits like you would maybe flipping cards on eBay. If you get a sick lineup that you mint that you think others might want, throw it up on the marketplace, see what happens. But these tournaments will lock Saturday an hour before games tip off. So hop in there, buy your packs. They are unlimited. 100% of the proceeds go back to the prize pool. So go ahead and check it out. Gary, anything to add after watching a few of these pack rips and helping me build a lineup?
No, other than I just bought a pack and I'm going to rip it and play around with it after the show. If we hadn't just done 2, we would do it here. But I'll let you guys all know how many I ended up ripping by next week, because I'm excited. And playoffs time, man, really fun time for the hobby. This is when I do a lot of my hardcore NFL selling right around now. So, keep an eye on the games and keep an eye on the market, because I expect some movement for a lot of the young quarterbacks that are represented in the playoffs here.
Yeah, agreed. We had intended to keep this short because we wanted my voice to hold up. I think it did. Hopefully for the most part.
Great.
Thank you for bearing with me. We will be back strong next week. As Gary mentioned, a lot of selling.
Should have a guest too. Working in the background. Looks like I got a response. We should have a guest for next week. Awesome. Exciting guest. So
Gary is getting extremely good at these industry teases. So
although we didn't do my tease from last week, but that box hasn't gone anywhere. We'll do that tease at some point.
Gary's Prism Hobby Box is not going anywhere. We will rip that at some point. Retail box. Hobby box?
Yeah.
Retail box.
Yeah.
Gary's retail box. I won't get too excited. Gary's retail box is not going anywhere. We will rip that bad boy on a future show. But check us out next week for a special guest.
Yep, absolutely.
For Gary, I'm Cody. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.